Begin transmission. Hello, everybody. It is I, Chris, aka Starrapter, joined by the usual crew of Milton and Ben. This is episode number 71 of the Outer Rim Transmission podcast, where we talk about the latest in Star Wars news, discussions, and more. This week, we have 2 weeks of news to catch up on. Luckily, there hasn't been a whole lot, but I'm excited because there's a lot of publishing news, from new comics that have been announced to new books that tie into upcoming video games, plus another Star Wars movie coming back to the theaters for a limited time. We're going to get into all of that, and our main topic for tonight will be our favorite ships and vehicles in a galaxy far, far away. And as always, we're going to get, the icebreaker started, what we did in Star Wars this week, throwing it right over to Milton for this week first.
Hey, how you guys doing this week?
Pretty good, pretty good. It's
Good.
nice and cool now, so this is the kind of summer I like as we're getting into the end of August, or really so.
Right. Yeah, I feel you. I mean, the weather has been changing, so that's a good thing. My week in Star Wars, so it wasn't really impactful, I guess, per se about what I would normally do. Haven't really found any video games or nothing like that recently. I need to get back on track when I have the time. Just, the real life gets in the way. But actually, it happened today at work. One of our new workers walked into my office, and as you can see, this background I have here on the podcast is of Goku with the Kamehameha blast going up against the Death Star, Death Beam. I have this particular painting in my office framed as well. And she looked at it and she's like, "Man, I cannot figure out the type of person you are, because you wear like Jordans, you wear like really nice dress clothes when you're here throughout the week, but then you have like, a Boba Fett helmet, a Star Wars poster, stuff like that." And I was like, well, I'm just a person of many talents. But we talked Star Wars for a couple minutes, so it was cool to see like someone trying to like figure out my type of person or personality that I have by looking at like the way I dress, but also like the stuff that I have in my office. Pretty much the back of my office is like a freaking toy store, pretty much. I think it's kind of funny. But we did talk Star Wars because of that little icebreaker that we had by meeting this person this week. So, yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, that's some of the best ways I feel like, in my opinion, like, just breaking the ice with people, and especially when it comes to, not judging people, but I mean, like, assessing people when you're meeting them, because like, you see someone like you coming in who's like dressed up or wearing Jordans, like that sort of stuff, and then you have stuff like, Dragon Ball and Star Wars in your office and in your daily life. Like it's an interesting, like you said, from their point of view, like if they're on the outside looking in, it's like, I wonder what this person's about. So like, let me like break the ice and be like, hey, okay, so what's up with you? Are you into like sports or nerdy stuff, or what are you
Well, no, it's
doing?
funny.
Like,
It's funny because like I have the. Do you guys remember the book, The Glove of Darth Vader? Right. I think that's like
Yep.
one of the Jedi Prince series. Oh yeah.
Yep.
So I have like one of the pictures framed as well in my office. I'm going to put
Really?
it up this week. Yeah. And but I also have a Muhammad Ali picture, and then like a Tupac poster like that's framed in my office.
That's
So
great.
it's like I have the multitude of extremes mixed with a little bit of like professional wrestling stuff that I put in there too, because like I can't help myself. I'm a huge nerd, even though I am a very mature, accomplished adult who owns his own home and works and has multiple vehicles in his name. I like to be a kid too at heart. So I think it's funny how when she was trying to make that assessment of like who I was as an adult, but also like what I'm all about outside of this place, I'm like, no, I'm very much mature and like to be serious, but Star Wars is pretty damn dope, and being a nerd is pretty awesome too. So
Yeah, man, he's done it
That's
all.
definitely great.
He's
yeah,
got the home, he's got all the vehicles, and he still manages to get on a podcast every week and talk Star Wars, man. That's
right,
going above and beyond. I'm working out, putting the work in the gym, man. Like, everybody
yeah.
should aspire to be Milton. I'm telling you,
No, you don't. No, no, no.
it's possible for the nerds to overcome and really be
Right.
successful out there, right?
Yeah. Well,
Not that I'm
facts for
saying
sure.
that nobody
But
is a nerd, but like back in the
right,
day, it
right.
was a very derogatory thing. Like, okay,
Exactly.
you're the nerd
And
living in the basement,
and
and
that's
you're
and that's
you're
what's
not
great
doing
about this
much with your
time.
life, you
Right,
know?
right, right. I agree with you, because that's what's great about this is like, you know, all three of us here, we like fitness. We like to be healthy people for the most part and take care of ourselves. You look at 30 years ago, nerds were perceived as like really like goofy, very intellectual type people that were like probably not the most fit, maybe the biggest kids or like the most skinny. Now it's like you got grown adults who look like freaking Dwayne the Rock Johnson wearing Star Wars t-shirts or like going to
Yeah.
conventions. I'm sure you've seen these at the
Oh, yeah.
conventions. Well, at the last Star Wars celebration, Chris, you probably seen guys that were built like me there,
Oh yeah.
nerding out, and they're like, "Oh, dude, this is awesome." But I'll go work out for 2 hours, but I'm coming back here to watch Star Wars. Like that's what's so great about this whole culture of fandom, just nerdom in general, but having Star Wars fans not be what you think they should look like. Everyone can be a fan of this property.
There you go. It's for everybody.
For sure. Like, it crosses over like so many like types of people, like things like they like to do, all of that sort of stuff. And like you mentioned, that was a big thing like years ago, was like, oh, the nerds weren't like into fitness or anything like that. And now that's totally changed. Like you see a lot of like nerdy type people that are like into fitness, and it's really good that like I would say that stigma is going away and whatnot. And yeah, I mean, like, it's just a good variety and like good changeover.
Heck yeah. So Ben, what about you? Tell me a little bit about your experience.
In terms of like the whole like nerd fitness thing, or,
Well, more
or
or
like
less,
Star Wars thing.
just Star Wars this week. Just
Yeah. Oh
the
yeah. Yeah.
usual.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So like for me, I really didn't have like anything like exciting in Star Wars this week, other than seeing a few social media posts, like just the casual, interesting conversations with fans. In terms of like Twitter discussions and social media discussions and YouTube comments and that sort of stuff, like those type of things are always interesting to get into, just to see what people's perspectives are, and just yeah, it's just an interesting like evaluation, I would say, like in the fandom, like looking at how people can be sometimes with certain things, like because I think Milton even liked my tweet or saw my tweet. Like to me, you'll see Star Wars fans, they'll go and post like a mega controversial opinion, and then they'll shut the comments off it on Twitter. And it's like, wait a second, if you're gonna put yourself out there like that, like you need to take the heat. Like, it's a public place. So like, I don't know. I feel like with fandom, it's just like a whole, you gotta like get in the whole open discussion thing versus like only like barricading yourself on one side. And like that was just kind of an observation throughout through the week. I saw a few tweets go viral about that, and it's just like, I could do without that sort of stuff. I'd rather have more of an open discussion. And that's like what we always like to do on here on this podcast, is like just have a open, broad discussion about our opinions. And if we agree with each other, we do. If we don't agree, that's cool too. Like that's the point of being a fan. So like, that was just pretty much my weekend with Star Wars. Like nothing too exciting, nothing as even interesting as like Milton's story. More just social media observations, and then other than that, my week has just been consumed by the new Madden game launching. So yeah, that's pretty much been my week.
Yeah, I know you're very much on that game, is the way I would be for World of Warcraft expansion. By the way, we're supposed to get the Dragon one at least sometime this year, which is going to be amazing if it comes out, because every other week, it's like, not even every other, it's literally been every week there's been a game delay, a massive game delay, where it's like, back for 2023.
Oh yeah. Well, speaking of World of Warcraft, that reminds me. So back to even Milton's story. One of our favorite actors, Henry Cavill. So he's a mega nerd.
Oh
like
yeah.
He literally, like, look at him. He's Superman. He's a successful actor. He's in great shape, and he builds his computers and stuff and plays World of Warcraft.
Right.
Like he famously like told his story when he was getting casted to play Superman. He actually missed the first call when they called him to tell him he got the role. He actually didn't pick his phone up because he was right in the middle of something in World of Warcraft, and he just let his phone ring and just let it delay through, and then he called him back after he finished whatever mission he was on in World of Warcraft, and that's how he like found out he got the Superman job.
Right. Well, yeah, and that also reminds me of what's his name, who plays Deathstroke, Joe Manganiello, because he's a big.
Oh yeah,
like,
Joe Man.
He hosts
Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah,
he's a big.
So many of
that.
these actors. they're super, in great shape, but they're big nerds. Like that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I was talking about, Sam who plays Darth Maul.
Oh,
You
Yeah,
Sam
know,
Whitwer.
Sam
Oh
Witwer.
yeah.
Sam
Oh yeah.
Witwer. He
Yeah.
paints miniatures. He plays video games. He has a Twitch channel. Like he's
Yeah.
basically what we do, and he gets paid a
Yep.
lot of money to be an actor. So
Right.
there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. So yeah, really, really fun social media observation. So getting into my week of Star Wars, you guys might want to buckle up because I'll be talking for a while here because I've been letting stuff build up, guys. And I gotta let you know, I had one of those moments a couple weeks ago. I was cryptically teasing you guys about, oh my gosh, I got this cool stuff to show on our week in Star Wars coming up, and I got a little carried away, and I got involved with a new Star Wars toy line, and I think I'm good right now. I don't know if I'm gonna need to buy anything right now, but I figured, let me go around and hunt for some of these new Star Wars Micro Galaxy Squadron lines of ships. They are basically the analogous version of the old 90s Micro Machine action fleets. So I was having a lot of fun picking these up, and I was going to local Targets, local Walmarts, tracking them down, because they're so new that they're not even really on Amazon yet. So for instance, that I have a whole video on these things I put up, but you got your X-Wing, like I don't know if these look familiar, but it's like the same scale as like the old school little X-Wings, and you have your little pilot guys.
Nice.
You have your little pilot guys you could, take in, and you can mix and match them. Like there's a little, let me see if I can get the camera to actually like zoom in on them a little bit. They're so tiny. It's like the Polly Pockets of the Star Wars universe,
Oh yeah.
They're
Yep.
so cool. So I have so many of these things. What's really neat about these is they have like all the eras. Well, besides the sequel trilogy, which is interesting. They don't have anything with sequel trilogy out. It's all Clone Wars, original trilogy, and Mando stuff. But they have different classifications. So technically, what I was showing you was the Starfighter class. They have all different price points. Then this is technically like the light fighter class. You got of course you got to have your TIE fighter, right? And they're all cool because they have all like these little interactive, you can interact with different things like lift up, take your guy out, literally rip the wings off these things, have fun like little battle scenarios. This is one's awesome. So this is your, here, I could take it off this is literally what I was not expecting a ship like, oh, okay, they're not the best build quality, but I will fix that later. But there's that ship from, I think the Micro series. It definitely was in regular
Yeah.
Clone
Yeah.
Wars.
Isn't
but
that what's the name ship?
this is the Size
Ventress.
Ventress.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So anyway, like that's another ship that you have Size Ventress. I was very
That's awesome.
excited for a very obscure ship. This one's really cool. This is a Jedi Starfighter. This is another Starfighter class. It comes with a little droid that you can pop in. You can pop out the little R5 droid that goes
that's
right
sweet.
in. Yeah, oh yeah, it's got like operational landing gear that go in, go out. It even has a hyperspace ring. Hold on one second. Yeah, I won't show you that one because I forgot where I put it. But yeah, we got that one. And then you even have like ground vehicles, which is really cool. So, for instance, you have a little ATST.
Oh, nice.
And that one's cool because its feet actually are articulated, so you can actually move. The
Oh,
whole
that's cool.
thing comes up. You can put your little veers, or not veers, but your regular guy. Like the gun moves. This move. The head actually moves. This moves. And then they have like these little mystery things. So you get like a mystery box, and there's like 6 or 7 different ships you can get them, and they have like little. They have like the little stands. So I got a little Darth Maul. That one's awesome. I got the little biker sky. Yeah, the guys come off there, so you can put them in other ships and stuff. This one's awesome. This is a chase variant. So all these ships, they have possibilities of getting a super rare one. And that goes for any of the other ones. So for instance, I have on my hands something that's going to be worth a lot of money in about 5 years. Because I have found one of a 5,000 quantity of one of these ships.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, check this out. It even like literally says.
Oh, wow.
How much was
Dang,
that?
that's awesome.
This thing was only $16, but it's probably going for at least like 200 on Amazon or
Oh, wow.
eBay right now. Like, cause it's got the Mandalorian, Luke Skywalker.
Mhm.
You know,
that's awesome.
That because usually this X-wing comes with just the Rebel pilot, which I showed you before. But this is a 1 in 5,000. They have a 1 in 15,000 Moff Gideon with his TIE fighter, which I've been looking for. If I find that, I'll probably buy it, honestly. But I'm not taking this one out of the box because this one's gonna be worth a lot of money someday.
Yeah, you don't want to get that Lucy.
Just wait until Mando's last season.
But this one is why I decided to buy all these things, because this is freaking awesome. And it's the Millennium Falcon. You got sound effects. This is like the Chris like show and tell. You got a little gun turret you can move around. You could take. Look, you got all the little people in there.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, you got 4 people you can fit in there. Then you could take the entire back off of this thing. It's the whole back. Like, this reminds me of the old, like the old Kenner figure.
Yeah, the Kenner, or like the I know exactly what you're thinking of too, because you can get it, look inside of it.
Is that so cool? Yep. They even have a Djark table and everything in this.
That is really sweet.
And like you could put a guy in the gun turret, but it's like really annoying because there's like no easy way of doing it, and they fall out all the time. So I had Han just like as being a gunner, but yeah, it's really cool. You could hit this walkway to come down. It's very articulated, and the paint job for $44, like the paint job on this thing is amazing. Like the amount of detail and everything that's in this. You can bring the landing gear down. Yeah, so overall, I'm just very impressed with, because these are all relatively cheap. Like the X-wing is like $15. The little mini boxes are like $5 or $6. So,
that's not bad then.
Yeah, I bought enough just to kind of get an idea of how it is, because that's why the reason why I really like this. Unlike a lot of other toy lines, like all this stuff is like very comparable in like actual sizes, like for the scale of like how the ships would be like, you know what I mean? It's like, for instance, you got your X-wing, which is, that's about how big an X-wing would be. I mean, roughly, I think the Millennium Falcon is sized down slightly. But compared to like another range of the different toys, it would be like way smaller. Like I think the version of the 90s one was like way smaller than this. But yeah, this is a pretty light but kind of hardy type of design. But yeah, I'm really digging these. So these are cool. Like I almost had to like start putting stuff in storage to have these on display. Like I have hit the breaking point where I have literally no more space on my shelves or anything else back here anymore. So yeah, that was fun getting back into it. And it was like going on toy hunts because, like I said, these lines are so new. They came out in August, so a lot of stores don't even have them yet. So yeah, that was cool. I also picked up. This came out a while ago, and I've been meaning to pick it up. This is a little compendium thing of all of the Volume 2. It's not all of them.
Oh,
but
wow.
The Star Wars Insider magazine.
Oh, that's sweet.
They have different stories, and this has some Legends ones from like 2011. For instance, like the one on the back here has an Obi-Wan Kenobi story, which would fit into canon because it's an Obi-Wan story that really works right now because it's like him like leaving Coruscant to go on a transport, and he finds like this person that's in need, and they run into trouble with clone troopers. And then he like uses the Force real quick and gets out of there and goes to Tatooine. So, like really short stories, simple stories, but there are legends ones in here, and there's also canon ones in here that are more towards the back of the book. So I already picked up the first volume a couple months ago, so I'm working my way through this one. Uh, let's see, I picked up this book. Boom, Death Troopers. This is the
Nice.
newer version, right? It's the Essential Legends collection.
Right.
So
Incredible
yeah,
book.
That's pretty tight.
is it you read? Any of you read this?
I haven't read it.
Oh yeah. I've read it like twice.
It's so
2 or 3
small.
times
Like the
probably.
first, it's so thin. Like I couldn't believe this was an adult book. It's only 240 pages long.
It's such a dang good book though. Like
Oh, okay.
it's definitely probably my top 5 or 6 favorite Star Wars books, like period. Yeah, that book, it's so good because it's set around I forget. I think it's around the time of A New Hope, somewhere in that region. But pretty much the crux of it is you have an abandoned Star Destroyer, and then like a group. You have some people, and they end up landing there, and then they find out these troopers like on board are not alive anymore, but they're still roaming around the ship, and it's it's kind of your zombie thing, and it is so good. Like it is by far one of the best Star Wars books I've ever read. Pieces of content in general, like it's amazing. And for anybody wanting to look it up after our stream, they actually have a book trailer for this book, by the way, out there from back in whatever year this came out. Yeah, all it is, it's like a little 10-second teaser thing, and it's actually from the publisher, and it's like a stormtrooper, or it's like you have the camera zooming in, you see someone's back, and like the stormtrooper turns around and it has like the hook in his eye thing, and, and then it just cuts, and it's like Death Troopers.
Yeah, I'm gonna put a pin in that for a few more minutes from now, because something connected to that is also recent in the news. But yeah, I haven't actually read the trade paperback versions of any of the new books yet, or not new, the reprints. I'll call them Essential Legends condition. I have the Thrawn ones, but they're just collectibles. I just have them on the shelf just because the covers look cool. So that's the first one I'm actually going to read through, because the other ones I've been just listening on audiobooks, like you guys often do. So it's like, I think this is a nice short book. I'll breeze through this in about a week, and follow up with what I felt later on. And another one I got, this is monumentous for a certain degree. Comic fans out there know that, there's going to be Dark Horse published Star Wars stuff again. So this is technically the first thing published with Star Wars. This is the Star Wars Rebels, also kind of like the thing I just was talking about, where they have like little short stories in the Star Wars Insider. Well, apparently these stories, which are being published by Dark Horse for the first time in the United States, there was a Star Wars Rebels magazine overseas that was published in France, Germany, and England, and Australia. And then there was also a Star Wars Rebels animation. There was only 4 issues published in Germany, and each one of those issues of the magazines had a couple page comic for Star Wars Rebels. So I've been really enjoying my time reading through this. There's about, I think, like 50 stories in here, because the artwork in this is freaking awesome. Like it's very Disney-esque. It's like that Disney-esque style of artistry here, but it fits with the Star Wars Rebels kind of vibe. And it kind of goes, it's really neat, because the way Star Wars Rebels is set up is like there's a lot of those one-off episodes, whether you like them, whether you hate them. Some people call them filler, where it's like, oh, we're gonna go get the fuel, oh, we're gonna go help these people out. Like that's what all these stories
Lando's
are.
puffer pigs.
And the funny thing is, I was flipping through this, and there's a Lando story in here with the Rebels again. This is not an adaptation. These are all brand new stories, and it's neat because these are the stories and adventures of the Rebels crew that you wouldn't actually see on screen, but you could totally understand, like, oh, they're going here to do this in between these 2 episodes. Like, and it goes chronologically too, which is really neat, because it makes references to things in the episodes, and it's going through, and now I'm at the point where I'm like, clearly I could tell they're in season 2, because like the Rebel fleet is there, Ahsoka's there. So there are these one-off adventures. They don't connect with any of the other stories, but it's pretty neat to see how we're getting like these interstitial kind of stories. And it's nice that we're getting these stories that otherwise the Americans couldn't get because they're overseas. I mean, you could probably get them on eBay or something from the magazines, but it's nice having like a big, hearty, thick Star Wars comic book to just flip through on my breaks at work and stuff like that. So I've been chipping away at that one. So that was a cool pickup. But yeah, the cool thing is like that is technically the first Dark Horse published Star Wars thing, with Disney owning Star Wars, other than the Son of Dathomir comic, which was technically the last thing that Dark Horse published before like the canon wipe. It was like the only thing that survived because it was like directly connected to like Clone Wars episodes that never came out or whatever. And then next week we actually have the first published new Dark Horse story with the Hyperspace Stories issue number 1. So I'll be talking about that. But it's cool to see like the Dark Horse logo. I can't be nostalgic for it because I wasn't one of those people that was like reading the Dark Horse comics. I have like 2 issues of random like a Star Wars Republic with the ARC Trooper, and maybe like 1 issue of Dark Empire, like that's like wrinkled up, like crumbled up because I was like a kid and I didn't care about the state of the comic book, you know. So I got those 2 issues, but it's gonna be cool to see the Dark Horse logo on upcoming Star Wars comics. So I'm happy about that.
Oh yeah, it's great that they're like back into the game, and you know, it is nice and nostalgic, you know, because like like you mentioned, even though you weren't hadn't been like or weren't as connected to them, like I really liked a lot of their work back then, and the fact that they're like back into it now is great. I mean, it's always good to like have people who have been with the property before, like coming back.
Yeah, and Dark Forces has such a high pedigree. Like they have made those comics that I think Milton you might have read or something with like the Legacy comics.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, I know people freaking love those things. And
yeah, I mean, well, even with the Dark Empire series, they turn it into an audiobook.
Yep.
And it's phenomenal. Yeah, I have them. Like it's really, really good.
Damn.
That's why, like, I think we did a podcast maybe last December or last winter time or whatever about what Legends books we want to be, audio dramatized or whatever, or make Legends or whatever, or canon. Like I think, anything that Dark Horse touches that's not audio version yet, whether it's comics or books, like they need to make those into like those dramas, into like they're so good. There's so much rich story told. Did they do Splinter of the Mind's Eye? Was Dark Horse that particular?
Oh man,
I know. The one author wrote that book. What's his name? Because he did one of the sequel
Alan
books.
D. Foster.
Yes, he did The Force Awakens, right?
Yep.
But was that Dark Horse backing that up?
Well, that was a book.
But
Wasn't
even
that just
how
a
the
book?
cover, it was a book, but I remember like the cover looking very like comic book-ish.
Oh.
And that's why I was thinking maybe they backed it, because I know Dark Horse was like big back in like what, the 70s and 80s when it comes to like comics and books.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, no, I like a lot of stuff that they've done. Usually, I don't buy the actual hard copy. I just watch it on YouTube whenever people put the panels up. So.
And while rolling into our releases for this week, I already talked about the Star Wars Rebels compilation from Dark Horse, and we have what's going on. We have let me do a shout out for the chat really quick. We have Cowboy Kitten, hello, and we have Aaron Daly. I used to have a copy of Death Troopers, handed it to a friend, never got it back. Oh, well, that gives you a reason to go out and get the new cover at least now, and a new trade paperback for him. So there you go. But yeah, everybody that wants to chat, we always go live 9 o'clock Eastern. You can join in on a conversation like those two are doing right now. And you can listen to the podcast on any of your streaming services. There you go to listen to your podcast. And getting into this week's releases, we had The Mandalorian issue number 2. This is purely for collectors' purposes. This issue or this series is basically shot for shot. Each issue completely matches up with each episode. But don't go in expecting any new interstitial shots or stories, which I was really hoping for, because a couple of those adaptations, The Force Awakens being one of them, the Rogue One adaptation in comic book form, they all added like little character moments that you didn't see on screen that for me was like the real pull to be like, ooh, what's going to be in this one, right? Is it going to be Saul giving Jyn Erso the blaster and leaving her for dead and those cool things that we heard about but didn't see? But so far, this Mandalorian stuff is a letdown. It's just literally like shot for shot, word for word, exactly what was happening. Don't get me wrong, like the artwork looks cool. I will say it's a collector item. Like I'm getting the covers just to have them for value's sake at this point.
Right.
Um, but I just hope that they don't make a season 2 worth of these, because if they do, I might actually just pass on them. Because for me, I would just maybe get a graphic novel when they're already out. If they come out with the second season, I like the idea of adapting a TV series. They haven't done that yet, so you got to give it to them to at least try. But I don't think this is going to sell super well when people find out that there's literally nothing new in these.
Well, people, when they expect adaptations, I always go back to the Revenge of the Sith adaptation. Like that one, there
So
was
good.
so much added to the movie that it makes the movie a lot better. But that book is incredible, and like that I feel like is such like a pillar of like the adaptations in terms of the books.
Right.
And you compare that to like say the Mando one. The Mando one, it's easy because you just basically take. I mean, it's not easy. Of course, you have to make the artwork and stuff, but you just take all the lines and it's word for word. So it's a lot more. It's a lot less, I guess you would say, like intensive compared to coming up with new little tidbits that fit the story that's been told already.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I think some of the best adaptations of the movies, or even I'll say games too. I say obviously the Revenge of the Sith is probably my favorite adaptation of the movies, and then it's you guys might be shocked when I say this, but the Force Awakens novelization is actually pretty good. Like I like that novelization.
Oh,
I
yeah.
really enjoy it. And then when it comes to the game adaptations, the Force Unleashed games, both those books are amazing.
Yep.
You
The
know?
Old
Oh,
Republic
people love those
Commando.
books.
Yeah, yeah, and those are
Oh,
written by I know Sean Williams did the Force Unleashed books. And then who did the Republic Commando one?
Karen
Because I don't remember.
Travis.
Karen
Karen
Travis.
Travis. Yeah. Oh, and she's known for all the stuff she's
Yep.
done. So I mean, like anytime those particular. See, what's funny is think about it, all the authors we mentioned are some of the best Star Wars writers when it comes to like books. Like they see how these people write some of the movies. Like it's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
So, but it is what it is.
But yeah, so the one I want to talk about, and I was kind of freaking out a little bit earlier in the week, because I was just talking about this the other day. It's like, we need that Death Star 2 content. Well, we finally got the Death Star 2 content in Star Wars issue number 26 this week. And it's cool to see the Rebels kind of on the upswing here after the Empire Strikes Back. Now the Rebels are kind of striking back. They got their fleet together. They're all banded together, showing force to the galaxy that they're still around. They're fighting a good fight against the Empire. So we see Lando leading a charge in his Falcon, and he's going there with Red Squadron. So we got Red Squadron with Rogue Leader Wedge, and Luke Skywalker's Red 5, just blowing to bits all these walkers on this one planet on Unity Day, aka Empire Day. And then we get this really cool storyline on Death Star 2 with Moff Jerjerrod, and at that time, we don't know it's Death Star 2 until the very last panel, basically, of the story. And it's technically called a Black Site. It's called Black Site: Second Son. That's the code name for Death Star 2. And what's really neat about Death Star 2 is that it is kept so secret, and why we haven't heard about it is everybody that is sent to work on Death Star 2 cannot leave until that project is finished. They keep it so under wraps. They can't have any communication leaving that place. There is encrypted transmissions. There are people that literally have they breed this sort of thing in the people that work there, where they get paid money if they rat out on people that are doing things suspicious. So if somebody's like not like doing something a little bit weird, they'll like get a bounty for like being like, that guy needs to be like taken out of here and detained or something. So it's very much like lock and key. They can't do anything. But anyway, there is an aide to the character of Jerjerrod, and this character is actually activated by Kira. They are a Crimson Dawn agent. She activates this agent aboard Death Star 2. to say cause chaos for the Empire. The time has come. And we had seen from her angle in one of the other comic books where she's literally told all her informants and the Hutt's cartels and all the bounty hunter, like, just start causing chaos for the Empire. We need to do this to beat the Sith and all that. So this guy's idea, that was one of the insurgents, him and his wife, said, what's better than to give information of the Death Star 2 to the Rebel Alliance? And it's because of them escaping that I guess the story will be that the Bothans eventually get the information and the Bothans eventually die. So anyway, I thought it was kind of cool because in a roundabout way, you can kind of throw it around where Kira might have been the downfall of the Empire to a certain point of view. She didn't outright say, like, get the information about the Death Star of the Rebels, but why else would those people be stationed there if she didn't, like, want them to do something of that nature? So it looks like the wheels are turning. We're getting closer to that Return of the Jedi era, and I'm just happy to see what's going on with Death Star 2 and how under wraps it is, you know?
Oh yeah, especially like coming out off of our commentary last week for Return of the Jedi. It's cool getting more information about it because we haven't had that much information about it really up to this point in canon. So that's really neat. And yeah, just like the little connections like that, you can slide in there without like say quote unquote like messing things up.
Right.
It basically fits the whole thing perfectly. Like for me, like that bit of canon is neat because it fits in, it works. To me, it's unlike the whole, for example, like the Vader like knowing about Exegol stuff and like not mentioning it to Luke, like that sort of thing is like the more like egregious like canon issue. But this in this situation with like Kira and the Crimson Dawn, like that's awesome. Like I think it slides in perfectly, and the more and more like the stuff that comes out about her, it makes me wonder, like say when we get to the end of when we get to Return of the Jedi, like at this point in the storyline, like will she be dead by then, or will she like is this like I just feel like they can't take her out in the comics or books, like because I feel like they're saving Amelia Clark for something, but that's just me throwing out an idea there.
Yeah, I feel like there's so much story to tell. I keep going back for the official description of something we're going to talk about right now. We're going to just slide right into the news, and we're going to actually get into, well, I'll come back to something else that came this week because this translates perfectly into what I want to talk about. We got the Hidden Empire little synopsis release. I've been waiting for that. That's coming out in November. Hidden Empire is the third part of this pseudo Charles Soules written Kira trilogy that started off with War of the Bounty Hunters, went into Crimson Reign. Now the Hidden Empire, she is going after the Emperor. And like there's one of the covers of the books where like the Emperor is like shooting lightning out of his hands and she's blocking it with her swords, her Terras Kasi form, which I learned a lot about Terras Kasi, by the way, in that Darth Maul Shadowhunter book. There's all these different forms, like the Rising Ronto and the Raging Rancor, and like all these like really cool sounding different things. Because she was taught by Darth Maul to use the Terras Kasi, or she was taught by Trident Voss, and that then taught her. But I figured Darth Maul at that point, after Solo, probably was showing her a few different moves himself, because she actually fought Darth Vader in the War of the Bounty Hunters. She fought him for all of 5 seconds. Yeah, she fought him for 5 seconds, but then like crap like just started going off like bombs and stuff. So
all right. Stop you right here. Let me get this straight.
I know what Milton's about to say. I was waiting.
So they made a comic book about a character who we know of from a particular movie. Okay, she was a one-off character in that movie, and we knew she was working with Darth Maul. We knew that. You're telling me she stepped the Darth Vader and lived?
Yep.
Okay, fine. Now she's stepped into the Emperor and she's going to live?
We don't know this for sure. The comic book covers sometimes will tell a fib. Like they won't be 100% accurate.
here's the
Because
thing,
I
though.
believe that too. I'm like, if she actually goes to the Emperor, there's no way she could survive.
There's no way she lives. And I guess, and I'll let you finish. I know you're excited about this particular
I would
story
watch Milton's reaction on
because
these.
you are invested in these stories, as you should, because you've been on it day one. My thing is though, where are they taking this character then? Because I feel like there's got to be a payoff. Because Ben he just said it. You can't just kill her off if she's out
Well-
here like interacting with these people. Like the Emperor, if she's that essential to that particular story, someone's had to talk about it and say, "Hey,
Well,
this Kira person's out here wrecking shop in the galaxy. We got to handle
well,
it."
think about this, Milton. Like, what if we would get her, say, in the Mandoverse, Amelia Clark, and again, like we talk about like these movies and books, and video games, like replayability, readability, I guess if that's a word, but using these different forms of media, like what would be an easy way to draw people back to all of these comics and books? Have Amelia Clark reference encountering Vader and the Emperor in a live action sense, and like the Mandoverse. Like, they have plenty of ways they can do that to connect with, because there has to be some type of a payoff. Like, to me, you can't ever confront Vader, you can't ever confront the Emperor without some type of something, like some type of payoff,
repercussion or some type of impact. I mean, and again, Chris, I'm gonna let you finish, I promise. But it's like, to me, this is so bizarre because I feel like with what we got from the movie and then from these two particular series of comics, yes, she's a very integral part of what's been going on during the original trilogy behind the scenes. Fine. It's a big universe, big galaxy. People live their lives. Han doesn't even know what she's up to. What? He met her again, right? From what I remember. Did he see her again in the comics or no?
Kind of
not
implied. It's the one
Kind of. Okay.
Wasn't it?
But even that though, you're telling me Han Solo don't get whispers about this person? People know they're probably connected in some way, shape, or form. So it's like, how is he not hearing?
Well, no, because he's frozen in carbonite at this point.
Well, didn't?
Oh, okay.
Didn't
Maybe I need to get out. So this is still pre-Return of the Jedi, right? The upcoming story. Okay. I was about to say, what the hell's going on here?
And the funny part is, I don't want to spoil it. Never mind. I'll talk in a couple weeks about something that came to my mind, but it came out too soon to now to talk about it, where people might get pissed off if I mention it. But anyway.
I was getting confused because, wait a minute, this will make no sense to me.
So this is in between Empire and Return of the Jedi still.
Okay.
And here's the quote that I pulled. I put this on Twitter when they first announced Hidden Empire was revealed. This is coming straight out of the writer's mouth himself, Charles Soule. This new story is designed to deliver the big finale of Kira's story, at least this phase of it.
So phase means
that tells me that they are not done with the character. The writer's probably going to be done with the character. And this leads me to believe, okay, we have D23 coming up in, I think it's the week after Labor Day. It's September 9th, 10th, 11th or something in Anaheim. Same place we had Star Wars Celebration earlier in the year. I feel like they're dropping bombs. Ming-Na Wen was on Twitter. I was telling you, Ben, about, or I think it was in this group chat in general, about, hey, she's like, I want to see more Book of Boba Fett. More will be revealed soon or something like that. I was like, huh? So I feel like this is a place where they're going to announce, we've seen that leak before with the Mexican promotion of
the Disney
season
Plus.
2.
Well, that and season 1 being listed on the crew stuff. If it was an exclusive series, it wouldn't say season 1.
Yeah, exactly. So I think they're going to just straight up announce Book of Boba. It's up for 4 Emmys now. I keep seeing a promotion now. Little trailers in my feeds. Yeah, the viewer. So I think we're gonna get an announcement of Book of Boba Fett season 2. Maybe they'll go as far as to bring Amelia Clark on stage, because I figure she's gonna be there at the convention because they're gonna have the big Marvel stuff there too, and they're gonna probably maybe show a little bit of the Samuel Jackson show. What is that called? The Marvel one. It's the hidden.
Is it any Secret War? Any in the Secret War?
Yeah.
One?
It's Secret Wars, yeah.
No. It's not Secret Invasion.
Secret, yeah.
And she's supposedly playing a villain in that as one of the Skrulls.
Yep.
So maybe since she's already at the convention, they'll be like, well, we're gonna bring her out again and just say, okay, she's reprising her role as Kira in Book of Boba Fett, and boom.
Let me throw this in. I would love that. But with Star Wars, like that would be so perfect in my opinion. Like it would have people so hyped, like all of that sort of stuff. But to me, Star Wars has given us like a track record. Like I would love to be like excited or hoping for that, but it's like for me, I'm at a point now like my expectations are so low with Star Wars like announcements. Like if that would happen, it would be an incredible surprise. But I'm not like, to me personally, like I mean, we don't want to turn this into a D23 prediction thing, but to me, I really think the only thing they're gonna do is promote Andor and promote the Bad Batch probably, and Tales of the Jedi I believe comes out this year as well, and then they'll probably mention or like do something. They'll probably show the Mando trailer that was, or both Mando trailers that was leaked, or like a compilation of the two combined. Like I really don't think they would reveal like an Amelia Clark, just because like that's not Star Wars' model to show the guest stars like that. They're more of like let's surprise. Like for example, like with Thor, Christian Bale, they could have potentially hidden him and not had him like be announced as Gore, but then they come out and just like are full blown like marketing Christian Bale basically. So like to me, I just don't see that happening, but it would blow everybody out of the water if it would.
Yeah, I mean, just quickly, since we're already on the topic of D23, that weekend is going to be absolute bananas because that Thursday, I think it's like the Disney Plus day. So
Yep.
like they have like the Twitter, like that was run so stupid last year. Remember how dumb that me and you were like on
It was
Twitter,
Twitter updates.
and it was just like
Yeah.
Twitter updates that were so haphazardly scheduled. Like the whole community was in an uproar because we're like, "Where's the Star Wars stuff?" And then they finally showed us like one Obi-Wan teaser, and then Marvel got like 10 things and Star Wars got one. It was like, what's going on here? We're being a little greedy, yeah, but it was kind of weird how they structured it anyway. But then I think they have the presentation like 2 days later at Disney Plus. So D23. So it's like, okay, so what stuff are you going to put out at the D23 day or whatever, Disney Plus day? Then you have the D23 convention. There's another story I'm going to talk about in a couple minutes here. And then there's an Ubisoft thing for video games on like Saturday, which could have the potential of showing the open world game they announced like 2 years ago. So there's like so much happening that weekend. But getting off of that tangent, I'm not done because there's another Star Wars comic that got announced in the last 2 weeks, and that's Star Wars Revelations issue number 1. So they've done this a couple times, or at least one time, where they will put out like a big, like 40-page double-sized comic that will sort of like preview what's coming up in Star Wars. And their whole framework design of this is Vader goes to Mustafar, and he finds the Eye of Webbish Bog. If you're not familiar with that character, they are this big creature that like lives in the lava, and it was going to be in Rise of Skywalker, where Kylo Ren like interacts with this weird creature.
Man, that would have been great.
Yeah, but it's like anyway, so this thing like gives
Yeah.
him a vision of the future, and it just is a way of like showing us like, oh, there's all these things that are gonna happen with Luke, the bounty hunters, Darth Vader's own story, Dr. Aphra's story. So it's really like a catch-all, like, hey, maybe this will be where we see that post Return of the Jedi content that I keep talking about because it's been about 2 years, maybe a little bit over 2 years now. I think it's time to move on to another era of the Star Wars comics. Going back to another thing that got released this week, and Ben, you had mentioned there was a book trailer for Death Troopers. Well,
Yep.
it was awesome because Del Rey put out a book trailer for this, and that is The Princess and the Scoundrel.
Oh, nice.
And I already finished the book, guys. It came out on Tuesday. This is one of those books that I just couldn't put down, and I will say this is the cover of the year right here for any Star Wars book. It's awesome. This reminds me of the old school Legends book cover designs.
Yep.
And it's got everything in here from the romance to the Ice World Musra or whatever it's called. And yeah, we got the everybody's favorite Galactic Star Cruiser. But it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad with the Galactic Star Cruiser stuff. They managed to make it fit in pretty naturally, I would assume. I would say. But I really liked the story. The story was awesome. And like I said on Twitter a couple hours ago, Del Rey has really hit it out of the park with these Star Wars novels this summer. It all started off with Brotherhood, which was like the preamble into like our Obi-Wan series where we really got into the Cade of Nemoidia and the Brotherhood relationship bond between Obi-Wan and Anakin. Then just last month we had Shadow of the Sith, which like really pulled its weight with really just giving us like a good comprehensive idea of how the sequel trilogy functions within itself, and it really adds a lot of clarity to what's going on with Palpatine and his machinations and Ochi of Bestoon and everything with Rey's parents. And I would say that one's an essential story if you're a fan of the sequel trilogy. And then this book comes out, and it is the direct aftermath of what happens with the Death Star. And you have Leia, she's like struggling whether to deal with being a Jedi, dealing with her father being Vader, what that means for the galaxy, the secret she has to hold, and having this really quick relationship, well, not quick, but like having this, going from being, with herself to being married to Han Solo within about a week or so after the Battle of Endor, and everything that goes along with that with Leia. Obviously they won the battle, but that's not it. Like there's a lot more to do. They have to set up a new government. So we see how flustered Leia is, how she's supposed to be going on this honeymoon, but also trying to show the galaxy that it's safe again. The holocams are recording like everything where it's like, okay, we want the people to know that the Empire's been toppled and this is a bright side of the galaxy right now. But then she's also dealing with making political connections, being an ambassador, kind of like working while she's on vacation type of thing, and irritating Han to a certain degree because this poor guy just wants to hang out with his newlywed, and then he feels like she's distant because she's dealing with all this stress that she has, being, learning more of the Force. Is it too early for that? Whatever. Then dealing with the politics, then all this other stuff. And then you have Han, who is just like out of his element. He's on the Halcyon, the Galactic Star Cruiser. It's not really like his jam, but he's also like finding ways to like kind of appease himself. And then meanwhile, in the first, like I love how the book is set up. You got the first third, which is stuff on Endor, the whole thing with like the fuel system with like they have this great. What I love about the Star Wars books is between Princess and the Scoundrel, between Shattered Empire comics, between the Aftermath trilogy, between the Alphabet Squadron trilogy, and I don't know if I'm missing any other like interstitial stuff. Well, Battlefront 2's campaign. They have this first year of that post Return of the Jedi era, which is so well fleshed out right now with Operation Cinder, with the droids that have Palpatine's visage on them that are directing people after his contingency and his death, the Battle of Jakku. Like all the stuff built up to that Battle of Jakku has been so well done at this point. So it's this story does a really great job of continuing on that front, really like giving us an idea of like, hey, there's a big fuel crisis and the Empire is going to be heading out to the Outer Rim because now the Mid Rim and the core is going to be delegated to this newer republic. So now the Imperial holdouts are going to go to the Outer Rim. They're going to blockade the Anuet sector, which is where Bespin is, which is where Cloud City is. And Cloud City, we know, is the big producer of all the Tabana gas. So if the Empire, over there decides that, hey, we don't believe the Emperor's dead, we want to keep people working on Tabana gas so we can hog it from the rest of the galaxy, then the other side of the galaxy, we have to get a new form of fuel. So then the Empire holdouts go there and start blockading that planet. So there's a lot of like really cool ideas with the politics, with how people are reacting, like the rich people, right? Like we've seen a little bit of this in The Last Jedi, how, you got the different, the bureaucrats and different people that are profiting from war. So we see a lot of that, like a lot of these people are like wanting Leia dead essentially because she killed Jabba, and a lot of the the Hutts want her dead. But then you have these people that are making millions and millions of credits because they're developing Star Destroyers, and all of a sudden you can't make Star Destroyers anymore because the Empire's dead. So all these people are just pissed off and everything else. This book is fantastic. I can go on about it for an hour. I won't because I feel like I'm getting into spoiler territory now. But I will say, pick this book up because it's awesome, and it's there's a lot of it's a love story at its core, right? So there's a lot of romantic stuff, and it actually worked pretty well. I'm not that kind of dude that's into that sort of thing, but I thought it worked pretty well in this. It's cool seeing Han being himself, seeing those moments with him and Leia kind of alone is like this cool kind of outlook on like what the relationship ends up being. We know how it tragically ends with them kind of separating themselves. We see a little like bits of cracks in that foundation of where we'll eventually see that happen in the future. But my review is coming up pretty soon on the channel. Look out for that this weekend. But definitely a page turner, as Yoda would say to Luke. Definitely recommend it as my early impressions. I'll have a more well thought out review coming to you guys later.
Nice. That does sound interesting, and like you said, it's good that they're like developing like little bits, little stories here and there, like just right after like the events of Return of the Jedi, like that with the Battlefront, the Aftermath trilogy, like all these things. It's nice that they're developing these storylines like right after, because it's a time period when most people like immediately think like it's instantly like peaceful or instantly like perfect, when like there's still like a lot more going on.
Yeah, and it's really funny because I put this out on Twitter as well. There is this one thing that Lucasfilm does not give up on trying to make relevant in this era. And in 2015, there was a Star Wars mobile game which was supposed to take the world by storm called Star Wars Uprising. It was like one of those like really like
I remember that.
Exactly, right? Like I think most Star Wars fans probably downloaded it because it was like the next big thing. It was like, "Oh my gosh, it's a Star Wars game on your phone. That's going to be canon. That's going to push the story forward to The Force Awakens." So like everybody was downloading this thing, but it was just a very poorly done game. It was very repetitive, very grindy. There might have been like heavy microtransactions. I don't remember.
Dude,
But
that game
apparently
was trash.
Yep.
Like that's what turned me off to the Star Wars games. I was like, y'all garbage when EA took over or Disney, garbage.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, like they keep referencing this damn game, but it's so funny because like they're bringing it back from the dead, like because they had all these lofty ideas for like continuing the story with the game through the game. And then when they canceled it, they're like, "Oh crap, we have a story that we were supposed to tell, and now we'll never be able to." Well, now they've been threading that into the story. So like the stuff with the blockade on the Anuit sector, that's where the game take place. They reference like Governor Adelhard, who is this stern guy who's like telling all his citizens like the Emperor's not dead, he's still alive. Like there's all this propaganda, and I love this era of Star Wars. There's even a reference of it in The Mandalorian season 2, episode 7 with Migs Mayfield. He's like, yeah, I was there at Operation Cinder and all this stuff. So, like, they're even putting this in the actual damn TV series now, which is great. Maybe one day we'll actually get, like, some version of the Battle of Jakku, like, in animation or even in, like, a flashback to live action. That'd be freaking awesome. Yeah, so, all right, an hour later, we're finally ready to get on to some more news here. This thing's fresh off the press. We got some stuff about Jedi Survivor. We have Jedi Survivor books announced. The first one is a full-fledged novel from Del Rey. This one is taking place I don't know if it's right after, but it's after the events of Jedi Fallen Order, and it's called Jedi Battle Scars, written by Sam Maggs. Star Wars Battle Scar, a new novel from Del Rey, written by Sam Maggs, finds Order 66 survivor Cal Kestis leading the Mantis crew on an adventure set between a critically acclaimed Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order and a highly anticipated Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Star Wars Jedi Battle Scars arrives on May 7th, 2023. And then we also have the art of Star Wars Jedi Survivor. The art of Star Wars Jedi Survivor basically has chronicles development of the game, collecting concept art and creator commentary in an oversized, fully colored hardcover behind-the-scenes tome. Will hit shelves on May 2nd, 2023. Yep, so that is pretty big. Okay, so this tells me right now the game is basically ready to be shipped. The game is not going to be delayed because they have hard dates on these books. And the fact that they actually are coordinating with the development studio of Respawn leads me to believe that like they are way ahead of schedule if they're able to time these kind of books with the game, especially with with the art of Jedi Survivor. Like it says, like they have the behind the scenes stuff. So like everything's done. So that I would say that the game has to come out between March and April would be my guess, because you can't have behind the scenes thing coming out before the game's done. Um,
I mean, you never know. I mean, they could, but look, still haven't played the first game yet, and I just
oh
have
man,
it downstairs. It's still downstairs. I just haven't played it.
yeah, it's fantastic. And from what we've seen from the trailer, is that we have what's going on with the crew is dismantled. Now I don't know if they're like the Stinger Mantis crew with Sarah Jenda, with Marin, with the other dude that I always forget his name, that cool looking, stumpy looking alien. They're all gone, and the ship has crashed. So I don't know if this book will give us a little bit about that, but I'm a sucker for some good old video game tie-in books. I was a big fan of Battlefront 2's tie-in book that came out right before the game, which had like the backstory of Ian Versio and how Inferno Squad was a big force to be reckoned with within the Empire. But this is neat because it's going to give us after what happens with the game. And it's a great game because what happens in that game, the Cal Kestis and his crew, like that's some seriously deep crap that those guys have to deal with. Like their lives being threatened by that certain character at the end. I know the game's like 3 years old, but I don't really want to spoil it in case some people want to still play through it. Well, both of you haven't played through it all the way, so that
I mean,
I
I know
won't.
the. I know.
Oh, you
I
know the
know.
ending.
Yeah, I watched the playthrough before.
Do you know the ending of it, Milton?
Yes.
You know what happens at the end? Okay.
Yeah, like because don't they're in some like underwater thing.
That's the same place in Obi-Wan Kenobi, by the way.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, it's the same
Interesting.
facility
Oh,
where the
okay.
Inquisitors are. Yeah, so
Oh,
anyway, like
all right.
yeah, so basically Vader almost kills them all.
Yep.
No, I've seen the video, so like I've seen the like how it looks because he pops his entrance is dope.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's why like
So
I want to play the game. Like I'm going to play the game. I don't know the entire story of that, that's fine. I know how it ends, which is okay. But I hear the gameplay is pretty dope. And part of my debate of trying to hold off on it, and I'm thinking about going next gen with the PlayStation 5 next year. So I'm thinking, well, might as well just like get the PS5 and get both games for it, and then play them
yeah,
back to back.
yeah, you
Yeah.
might as well. Yeah. So
But again, I haven't decided yet because I mean, the only time I'm getting a next gen PlayStation 5 is when NCAA football comes out.
Next
That
June
well,
or
that should be
July.
coming out next
Yes.
year, I think, right?
Yeah, so that's
Next-
what I'm saying. Like,
Yep.
we'll see what happens.
Yeah, but again, like to have this much stuff centered around the game, between the action figures, between we had a miniseries comic that was telling the telling of Sarah Jenda, who's the pseudo master of Cal Kestis in this game, to now having a book. We are basically, and for all I know, they probably have a CD of the game soundtrack somewhere. Hey guys, we are now talking about the new Disney era of the Shadows of the Empire because this is a multimedia video game tie-in connected universe. Now they literally have a Jedi Fallen Order universe in every sense of the word. I mean, especially if Cal Kestis eventually shows up on the screen, it's going to be really like crazy. And I have no doubt that he will eventually. I just hope that they tell the story they want to tell in the game first. Leave us, the suspense.
Yep.
Suspended in belief. They could throw
Oh,
him
yeah.
in something like Andor maybe eventually,
Mhm.
but that
Yeah,
would be
they
past these events, I guess. So
Yeah,
that would
they-
be like spoiling his fate or whatever. But
Oh yeah, I think they could definitely end up throwing him in at some point in live action because right now Cameron Monaghan is like the perfect age, perfect. He looks young and like he could play him perfectly, whether it be like in the pre A New Hope era or if he ends up being like in the Mandoverse era at all. Like, there's a possibility for that. It's like he would fit that perfectly, and like you said, it just all comes down to a matter of where and when the game takes place. Like, hey, here's one thing for you, Chris, to think about with these games. The next game, say after this game that's coming out next year, what if, the next one, if they say, hey, we're doing a time jump with Cal to when he's like 45 or a lot older, like, see, I feel like that would be the first signal to us that he's going to make a live action appearance, because I feel like they would just basically give him a live action appearance and then shuffle that right into the next game, potentially, like right around that era.
Hmm. Yeah, it could be interesting. So
What
it
I'm
takes,
thinking.
it'll be about 3 years from the time of Fallen Order to Survivor. That's like the
Yep.
in-game development time. Especially now that they're working on next-gen hardware only. If they have a third game, I could see it being made in maybe 2 years. Especially now with the pandemic kind of on its way out, sort of. Now I'm sure their pipelines of development are a lot better than they were on the onset of the whole pandemic. So I could see them being on the same engine they are, which I believe would probably be Unreal Engine 5, which oh my gosh, this could look amazing. And segueing, I think I'm doing pretty decent with these segues tonight. Transitioning into the next one is we have this D23 gaming panel. And well, that's happening on September September 9th. We're getting the Disney and Marvel Games Showcase. They haven't done any of these before. This is the first time, this would be where we're gonna see first gameplay of Jedi Survivor. I'm calling it now. We're gonna see first gameplay for Jedi Survivor because there really isn't any other gaming conventions or anything to really have before the game comes out, right? I don't think this is coming out um, after Celebration, which would be the next logical place to show it. It'll probably be out before then, like maybe a couple weeks before Celebration in April would be my guess. But yeah, so basically they're gonna show, and this surprised me, new Lego Star Wars content. So I'm like, okay, I'm all about that because hell, I'm still playing. As I was telling you guys before we started recording, I'm only 700 out of 1,200 bricks, Kyber
Well,
bricks or whatever in the game. There's so
well,
much for me to do still.
well, I mean, we speculated about it when the game first came out. I could 100% see them doing like some type of a DLC to bring in like Mando season one, and you play
Yep.
through that or something.
Yep.
I 100% could see us getting a little 10, 20 like a 20-second thing, like a mock-up almost, or a little mini trailer of like the end of Mando season one, episode one, when Din's walking up to the basket and opens it up and it's little Lego Grogu basically. Like I could see us like getting some type of a little teaser like that or something, because we're for sure going to be getting a DLC for that game at some point of the Mando shows, because like why wouldn't they?
Yeah,
Honestly.
so the structure of Lego Star Wars, they don't even have to necessarily put a story mode in. If that's going to cost them a lot of money to do that, they
Yep.
could just maybe say screw the story, just put the planets in from the game.
Yep.
Or put the planets in from the shows, cuz right now they have like 20 planets, but I could see them adding so many more planets into the game from hey, put Braca from Fallen Order in there. Put Jeffa from Jedi Fallen Order. Put
Yep.
Clone Wars planets like Mandalore. Put
Hmm.
that whatever. Like they can just put out a planet, like a pack of planets. Like let's say like do 3 or 4 planets every like quarter, and just have like a season pass like Destiny or something. Like okay, you pay $10, you get these 4 planets, and you could do like a year-long season. And they could like that Lego people. They could be working on this game for like the next 3 years at that rate. Like
Yeah.
they just put in a bunch of Kyber bricks and let you go crazy, you know? I don't know. Just put some music from the series and stuff in there, and you're good to go. Because they already have the characters in there. Moff Gideon, Bo-Katan,
Yep.
Mando, they're all in there. They don't really talk or anything like the other characters, but maybe they can just do VO while they have the people in the studio recording anyway. Like, what would that take? Like, get Pedro Pascal to say, like, I don't know, 20 different lines, and then they just put it in the game. I don't know. He's already there. Just have him
Yeah.
say a couple more lines.
Throw them another 10 or 20 grand and be like, hey, here you go.
fine.
So and this is the same place, like I said. Well, maybe we'll see more Star Wars Hunters. I don't know. Got delayed till who knows when. And then Jedi Survivor. I think if they don't show us a trailer, they will, or show us a gameplay trailer, they will at least acknowledge an actual release date for the game. I think we'll find that out in a couple weeks. And hell, there's a lot more Star Wars games. Maybe we'll get an update on Star Wars Knights of the Republic remake, which is the next story. So apparently,
Mhm.
the studio that is in charge, the overarching studio called the Embracer Group, people online love to hate on these guys. So the Embracer Group is some like conglomerate from like from Europe, somewhere in Europe, that is like swallowing all of these like companies, from like miniature gaming groups like Asmodee to like they just recently bought like all of the Lord of the Rings rights outright for like 500 something million dollars. They just straight up were like,
Smokes.
we now own the rights to make a Gandalf movie, to make an Aragon movie, to make video games. Like this Embracer Group is like just, they're unstoppable. And apparently they seemed, there was something in that report where they had confirmed that they changed the developer for a big AAA game. And they didn't specifically say Knights of the Republic, but for whatever reason, people are putting two and two together that, you know, the previous, I will say at this point from speculation, the previous developer, Asper of KOTOR, it's not confirmed, might be changing hands to Saber Interactive. Saber Interactive has been in charge of a lot of different games like Halo. You go on the Wikipedia, the list goes on and on. They're also like a big porting company, but I think they have done like a lot of original stuff in conjunction with helping like the bigger studios. Or they're more of like a support studio than like an actual AAA, like create their own stuff from the ground up. So it's not much of a change from Aspyr, which is why I was like, why is this porting company making a brand new game from the ground up? They have no experience doing that, and they're going to give them the most beloved game of all time to do that on. I'm like, yeah, it doesn't sound good to me. So I don't know if this is much better, if you ask me honestly, but it seems like this group has more experience than the other group had, so we shall see. But that was in the news.
I'm over the game. I'm over these games, man. Like, look, I've been so salty about the video games with Star Wars. Because there's always some delay, there's always some change. Like, when's the last time there's been a consistent game besides
Squadrons?
Jedi? Okay, maybe. Well, I'll give you that. So I'll give you that and Fallen Order. That's it. Like, honestly, in the last 7 years since Disney has bought this company, the games have been dog shit. You know, just because like. I again, there's always some news with it. I don't understand why can't they be consistent? Why can't they find a developer or two to make a great game, whether it's mobile, next gen, PC, you know, handheld, whatever. Like, I just feel like this thing you just read just now, it felt like it changed hands 3 times.
Yeah,
and this is a remake of a game that we've all played on Xbox, that I guarantee right now, if I put out an original Xbox, I'd play it right now, it would still be fire. You know what I'm saying? So, like, it's like, why can't we get this right? We got the developers out there. Find one and make it happen. Stop playing. Like, I'm still thinking of Star Wars Eclipse that they hyped up. Was it last year or this past summer or last year?
Yeah.
No, it was like
last year. Star Wars Eclipse.
Yeah, and I'm like, wait a minute. That thing got changed? Like, look. They've left a bad taste in my mouth with these games just because something's always happening. I feel like it wouldn't shock me if Jedi Survivor has like a weird delay or like something.
Oh no! Don't tell me that.
You know what I'm saying? Well, didn't Star Wars Lego happen at one point?
Yo, that was renowned for getting delayed every year.
Yes,
that's what I'm saying. Like, you was waiting for that game forever, and all of a sudden delayed, or this happened, or that. I'm like, come on, bro.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, Star Wars Lego was like one of the flagships of that. I mean, because like, you know, they announced it it was like, what, 2018, I think? 2018 for 2020. And then it kept getting pushed. And then it was like, oh, it's coming out. I remember when like the Star Wars show on YouTube, on the Star Wars YouTube channel, like they were like, oh, it's coming out this October, whatever, blah, 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 or November, blah, 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 blah. And then here's the best part about it, Milton. You may not remember this, but for that specific episode of the Star Wars show, the Star Wars channel, they deleted the episode to cover it up. Like, you can't find that episode anymore from the announcement because, you know, they had so much of a snafu with that. And then, like, even going back to Battlefront 2, you know, the microtransactions drama that went on with that situation. That was a disaster.
That was
bad.
Like,
you know, you have all of these controversies with the video games. It's like, why can't like I just don't get it why they can't get it straight. Like
at least look, I'll say this, because Madden has its moments, but at least Madden every year comes out when it needs to come out. It's consistent. Yes, is it always a hit? No, I mean, but it's fairly popular though too, and they're going to keep making them. All right. And
when EA's involved, like when EA's involved, like this is the one thing. I mean, I'm sure you could agree.
Sports wise, they're pretty solid.
When EA's involved, EA. The big thing with them, they'll make their dates about 99.9% of the time because EA loves their money, and they make their dates for the most part. Like I would say.
And they know us idiots who bitch about the game every year because it says the same thing. We're going to pay for it. Like I get 2K usually every year.
Yep.
But like I'm just saying, why can't we find a developer? And Chris and Ben, you guys would know this better than me because I'm not really into like developing game companies like you guys are. Like if you had to pick one or two developers to take Star Wars for the next 12 to 15 years, who would you pick?
Oh wow.
That's a whole podcast probably.
And that might be another podcast down the road, but I'm saying if you had to just give a quick answer.
Respawn Entertainment. They're already working on the best Star Wars games. So that's Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor.
So why would you pick that company in particular? And here's the thing. I've seen the gameplay for Fallen Order. It looks fire. And you've said how it plays smoothly.
Well, here's the thing, because they're diverse. They can do different things. They are currently making a strategy Star Wars game on top of a first-person shooter Star Wars game. So they have all the bases covered.
Right.
If it was a couple years ago, I would say CD Projekt Red, who makes one of my favorite games of all time, Witcher, or Rockstar. They've great. It depends on what the kind of games you want, right? You go with the pedigree of the studio. If I'm looking for an open world game, let Rockstar make a Star Wars game. That could be freaking badass.
That's what immediately came to my mind, like without even thinking about it, was Rockstar. Like I feel like they would be like the perfect studio for an open world Star Wars game. And like to me, I feel like I don't know, like we've always said on this podcast, as Star Wars fans, we're really simple to please. Like give us a solid story, give us some lightsabers, some blasters, and some vehicles and some creatures, and we're pretty much good. And and then you have all these other like little issues that pile up with the video games that make them almost tarnished. And it's like, why not just of course there's this the other open world Star Wars game, but like why not give Rockstar an open world Star Wars license or whatever to make something, and just like give us a Star Wars game. Like I mean, heck, if you want to make it like seasonal to make money, make even more money, I guess. Like you could add in like kind of like the battle passy type or seasons to it. Like so say season 1 you could do the Phantom Menace and make it all the Phantom Menace, and then you just keep adding to the game. Right. Then you add in the Attack of the Clones here, and then Revenge of the Sith, and then Solo and Rogue One and A New Hope, and you just keep adding and adding and adding, like adding into the open world element of the game, and like do something along those lines versus just like overthinking it. And like you said, Milton, when Chris was reading that article, it like just you like describing it, Chris, like sounded like it changed hands 2 or 3 times. It's like, wait, who, what, when, where? Like
that's what I'm saying. Like it's.
But it's the funny part. This is where it gets funny, because there's a lot of news outlets coming out and saying like, oh, they switched hands, but they're on track to make the release date. It's like, no way in hell are they making the game come out next year.
Yeah, there's no way, because think about it. And we've all worked in the professional world in general. We've all, when someone takes over a project or a case, you got to relearn that case and get adapted to it and maybe implement your own way of doing things. Like every company is going to be like, okay, this is what Vice did, or this is what EA did, or Frostbite. So we got to see what they did. How can we make it better, and how can we put our people in the best position to make the game we want to make?
Yep. Oh yeah. Well, Milton, a super easy example, even for our listeners, or like us being big sports fans. It's when like a new coach gets hired to a team in the NFL or NBA. It's not year 1 they win. It's not year 2. It's year 3, 4. It's down the road. Like you have to build a foundation for it. And like to me, with like these studios and stuff, I feel like Star Wars hasn't developed a good relationship for the most part with a lot of these studios to develop a good foundation to build the games off of, like, because you have to have, like, like you mentioned, with like good management, good leadership, you have to have like good, bold management that stays consistent. Like, say what you want, like a lot of people are like going after Warner Brothers Discovery right now and David Zaslav, but for me, I think he's doing a good job because he, whether you agree with his stuff or not, like he's coming in, hammering stuff down and like getting rid of projects he doesn't believe in, etc. And I would rather have that than Warner Brothers be all over the place and be super sloppy like they have been in the past 6 or 7 years. So like with Star Wars, it's just like they need to find some type of a like video game leadership. So like you have your Kathleen Kennedys and those people working on, say, the movie and shows and that type of thing. They need some type of I don't know, like a Kevin Feige of video games, like someone to head up the video game side of things, like say, hey, we need to like head in this direction with our relationships with the studios and stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, I know they said of bringing back Lucas Games or something.
Yeah, that's what they're kind of doing. Yeah, Lucasfilm Games does all that.
Yeah, they should never got rid of LucasArts. Okay, because LucasArts was popping. All right, again, I know
all those games are classics.
Yeah, I know I was a kid in the '90s and early 2000s as a teen. And maybe my glassy eyes as a kid is still having nostalgia about them, but I don't remember any of those games being horribly bad. For that particular time, where I feel like every Star Wars game back then was a fairly successful game for the most part, where this is replayable. I can play this multiple times. Again, I have a PlayStation 2, Nintendo 64, a PlayStation 3, and I have Star Wars games for all three of those systems that I still play.
Yeah, I feel like at that point there was games coming out at the rate of the Disney Plus shows. Like we would get a game like 4 times a year. We'd get one in the fall, spring, summer. Like, I'm waiting for that. Like, there's enough games in development to do that eventually for Star Wars. It's just, if the damn delays would stop, it would be all right.
I agree. Well, right, facts. I think this all stems from, and whenever they bought Star Wars, they got rid of that department and they canceled 1313. That's how we should have saw the sign right there, because 1313 looked good. Like, we all were looking forward to that game.
Well, I think what Amy Hennig is working on could be something similar to that, because that had a very Uncharted feel. I think that game actually came out before. Like, when I was being made, I think Uncharted wasn't even a thing at that point. It might have been.
Uncharted, what, was 2008, I thought, maybe?
Oh, maybe. I don't know. I've never played Uncharted, but
yeah,
it was very much like that very big, explosive game where you're covering behind and shooting people, and it looked similar to that.
Dude, it looks so good. And I was never a person who was into like the first-person shooters or whatever like that. Because this might have been, was this first-person or third-person shooter?
Third person.
But yeah, I never was really into all those shooting games as a kid, except for like GoldenEye, whatever. But even seeing that, I was like, oh, like I can do this, because it was the new part of Star Wars. It was so new of, oh, this is the underground of Star Wars. We never really saw this. You're not playing as a Jedi. You're not playing as like a Sith. You were just some bounty hunter and a different element. And I'm like, I can lock on to this, so, but I just felt the writing was on the wall then. Maybe we should have saw the signs. Hopefully moving forward, again, I'm trying to be positive about the video game department. They've let me down.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like anything, it takes time to like build someone's trust back up, especially like a customer's, when you're going to spend money on the product. Like, you want to make sure it's worth spending the money on, even say it's only $60. Like, that $60 can be used on something that's not bad, I guess, or not.
Oh, here, I'll give a good sports example. I mean, Chris, you live in Jersey, so I mean, New York Giants fans and Jets fans, you guys have been trying to trust those franchises for the last 15 years, and they've been trash. So I don't know why you guys give your money to them. Just saying.
I mean, it's true. Trust me, I know how it feels over here at the Browns.
Oh, it's in Cleveland, yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah. So there you go. That's what's happening. Like I said, that weekend of September 8th, 9th, 10th, you're going to get news about games. You're going to get news about series. Hell, maybe we'll even have Taika Waititi actually showing up and talking about what he's working on, because I feel like, if anything, they're going to be talking a lot about movies at D23 too. So it's about time we start getting a little bit of news on that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we get a title even of that at D23 because they're supposed to be starting to shoot at the beginning of 23. So
Oh.
maybe we get a title at D23 for that potentially. Like that's another thing with Star Wars too. It's like I love all the Disney Plus stuff. Don't get me wrong, but Star Wars is a theater property in my opinion. Like they should be, they should be more in the theaters, not being in
But
not being
here's
like
the thing,
gun shy over it.
They should present their stuff as if it's going to theaters. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Oh yeah.
like they are the. I mean, this is very cliche, but they're the granddaddy of Star Wars, in my opinion. I mean, look, back in the day, Mickey Mouse was at number one. However, Star Wars should be that crown jewel. I mean, Marvel currently is that crown jewel of Disney. Let's be real here. But like, Star Wars should be saying, "Oh no, we are that crown jewel. Like you bought us for $4.5 billion." You know what I'm saying? Like I don't think they bought Marvel's rights or whatever at that time for something billion. Like Star Wars is clearly more worldly recognizable than Marvel. Or that might switch now. Marvel might be the most universal recognized IP when it comes to like TV and movies, maybe right at this moment compared to Star Wars.
Yeah, I mean, I think with that too, it comes down to just like overall management of the company with like the video games, the movies, the shows, like everything. Like because I think the main thing that would solve a lot of this stuff with Star Wars is like do exactly what Marvel just did at Comic-Con when they released like their whole timeline of things. Release a timeline. Like how cool would this be, guys? Like if they released a timeline for like the next 6 years worth of movies, shows, and video games, all that were tagged to the timeline. So you literally see everything, boom, and stick to it. That the big caveat is sticking to it though. But if they could do that, if they would release a big timeline, have have Kathleen Kennedy come out, announce it, be like, hey, this is our
just have Kevin do it. Just have Kevin do it, bro.
Or have Kevin Feige.
Well, he's already on their payroll. I mean, we know he's working for them to some degree.
He's working something, but yeah, just have him do that and announce it and stick to it is my big thing because like just sticking to the projects in general is the biggest issue I feel like when it comes to this company and now that's spread over to the video games side of things as well. And like that's another whole issue altogether, I would say. Like from talking management, like I'm always one to like hop on to criticize Star Wars management, but in my opinion, it's worth it because like to me, if you're Star Wars, like they should just set hard deadlines for these video game companies. Like you cannot go past this date. Like get the game done in the next 3 years, or we're going to a different studio. Because I think there's just too much flexibility and fluidity in the company to, it's just bleeding over into all of the different projects, whether it be the games, movies, or shows.
Yeah. And one last news topic for the week. If you want to go see Rogue One, well, you do have a chance. If you have an IMAX theater around you, there is a chance that it will be playing on August 26th, and there's going to be some kind of Andor preview attached. So I don't think it's playing more than one day, which is the hard part, because that is when we do our podcast. So if it was like playing for a week or two, I would definitely see it over the weekend at some point. But I'm like, well, darn, I guess it's they can't have an old movie for more than one day. I don't know. Who knows? I want to go see E.T. because apparently E.T.'s playing in IMAX right now. But anyways.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's cool though. Like, it got delayed, but like there's Lucasfilm's gift to be like, well, you gotta wait a little bit, but while you're waiting, you can go watch Rogue One again, which is one of the coolest movies to see on the big screen. So there you go.
Oh yeah. Speaking of Rogue One, one thing I saw pop up this week, by the way, on social media while we're talking about Rogue One and Andor, is I forgot completely about the trailer, the first initial launch trailer for that, where it shows like the opening crawl credits, and the credits start to like fizzle out, and you hear the whole alarm and all that stuff. Like I forgot about that, and like that's a cool little clip for anybody, just as like a little refresher. Go check it out. Like the first initial Rogue One little teaser was really, really cool, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah. That was iconic. The klaxon sounds going on and off, on and off, on and off.
Yep. But
All right,
yeah,
so for this last segment of the show, we're going to be talking about our favorite vehicles and ships in Star Wars. This spawned um, on me because I was collecting those ships, and I was like, yeah. When it comes to the ships and aliens, that's my bread and butter of Star Wars. I mean, you could talk about how cool the Jedi are, how cool the planets are, the Force. I know those are like most people like because of Force and Jedi and stuff, but I'm like, I really like the ships, guys. I really like the vehicles, and that just they go through so many designs, and some of them are old concept art that's brought back into canon. Like they did a lot for Star Wars Rebels. So I don't know how you guys want to kind of do this one, but I was thinking maybe we can just kind of break it up in like different classifications of ships from speeders to
how about
walkers to
yeah
I
how
don't know.
yeah I would say how about just break it up into like you got your ground transports. We can
Yep,
talk about some of our speeders, some of our walkers, and then talk about some of the more like say medium sized type
sure.
ships, and then just move on from there to like the bigger class ships if you want to go around the room that way.
Yeah. All right. So let's start off with some speeders. My favorite is the swoop bike. I don't know. Ever since Dash Rendar is flying on that during Shadows of the Empire, and then you later see Anakin on one in that famous Attack of the Clones
Mhm.
trailer. I've been hooked on that thing. I just like how it's like the chopper version of a motorcycle in the Star Wars universe. I like the sound it makes. I like the attitude for the rider gives. Like a lot of them are just like the bigger seats where you're just like leaning back more. It just has that say what you will about a speeder bikes. Speeder bikes are like you're leaning forward on a lot, but just the fact that you're kind of just chilling. Um, I've always been a fan of the swoop bikes, and in a matter of fact, I should be getting my swoop bike miniatures in the next week or so because Star Wars Legion has swoop bikes, and I have bought like 3 packs of them. I'm gonna have like a swoop bike army in that game, which is gonna be freaking badass. So yeah, I don't know if you guys have anything to comment on with the good old swoop bikes or not.
Yeah, I would say the swoop bikes, like you said, going back to Dash Rendar, that was like our first like introduction to them. I mean, for I feel like for a lot of people, and then of course Anakin in Attack of the Clones, and then
Mhm.
if you would classify Darth Maul's swoop speeder bike as a swoop bike, I'm not
Yeah.
sure, but I would say like to me like the most like I think iconic or like most memorable swoop bike moment to me is for sure like Darth Maul. Like seeing Darth Maul just go like flying off that cliff and like flying down, chasing Qui-Gon and Anakin, like that whole thing, I feel like imprinted like such a big like, it's just such a cool shot and everything. So that's what always like really made me interested with the swoop bike vehicle specifically.
Yeah, it looks a lot of fun, and yeah, we didn't see enough of that Darth Maul speeder.
Yep.
I'm sure it has a specific classification and name. I'm just gonna call it a speeder bike, whatever. But it is cool. Like you get to see him just jumping off that cliff. Like good thing they have something called repulsor lifts. We don't know how to explain how
Yeah.
they work, but damn if they don't do a good job of cushioning the 500-foot jump off a cliff.
Yeah, no, I agree. I was going to mention or not Vader, Darth Maul's speeder bike, obviously the Attack of the Clones look, and I'm pretty sure. Well, speaking of Attack of the Clones, obviously the hot rod speeder that Anakin gets or not Anakin, was it Anakin? Yeah, Anakin gets the
Yeah.
speeder to catch up to Obi-Wan when they're going after the droid, the assassin droid, because he does mention he's like I couldn't find the right. He's like, what took you so long? He's like, I couldn't find the right speeder that I liked, which I thought that was cool though, and I just showed like a lot of like George Lucas's upbringing as like a roadster and loving cars. So I would say growing up as a kid, besides the swoop bike and Darth Maul's bike, I like Anakin's speeder that he stole in Coruscant to like go after the assassin droid.
Yeah, classic line of I was looking for the right color. I didn't like that
Yeah,
kind.
colors.
It's like
Yeah, yeah.
moment of terror and urgency, and you're talking about trying to pick the right color. Like, come on,
I
dude.
mean, let's be real here, okay? If we're in that situation, let's say in real life, and our mentor is chasing like whatever, and we have 3 or 4 Lamborghinis that we can pick from, you're looking at the colors too. Yeah, even though I gotta save my mentor late, I like that black Lamborghini though.
I
Let's
say
drive that one.
black's always the move.
That's what I'm saying. Like I'd be like, all right, do I want the red one or the black one? Yeah. All right, I'll just take the black one. Let's go. At
Oh
least give me
yeah.
10 seconds to decide.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I totally agree with you on that one. Like the speeder from Anakin's chase, that was a really good one. I really like that one a lot. For me though, I feel like, man, that the whole ground speeder one is tough because there's a lot of good ground vehicles in Star Wars in terms of speeders. But I would say probably for me, the most probably the most, I don't know, I would probably say the most um the one I like the best, I would say, I guess, would have to be the classic land speeder from A New Hope. Like that to me, like was the
Mm,
first introduction to like speeders in general. Obviously, I mean, it was the first like really speeder shown, I believe.
right.
But I mean, you have that, but also like it has like a special connection because watching, as we all know, watching all the behind the scenes stuff about how they did those shots and everything, like just seeing how they created how they made it look like it was hovering, like for parts of it, like they smudged like Vaseline on the lens and everything to like basically make the bottom look like it's like smudged out
Mm,
so that you couldn't see the tires of like the vehicle that was actually like they were driving around, and so that was really cool. So like that for me would probably be my favorite like ground type speeder in Star Wars would be the land speeder, or Luke's land speeder, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong. That's the first speeder we ever seen in Star Wars, I would imagine, right? You're
Yeah,
just like
yeah. I mean,
wondering,
I
like,
mean that
yeah,
that and it also goes back to as well, like we're always talking Legos on here. Like that was, I would say, probably my first Lego set I can remember, like as a kid, like the Luke land speeder, like with you came with him and Obi-Wan and the droids, and like that's just a classic time.
oh yeah. Let's move into the Walker category. I'm gonna put this one in the chat because this is very obscure, and this is from Star Wars Legends.
mm,
Now, I haven't seen it in canon yet, but this is called, and I've been doing research while we're talking here. This is called an ATPT. It was in the Rogue Squadron video games for the N64. And if I could describe it for those of you that aren't familiar, it's basically an ATST with like an elongated like
Oh yeah.
cockpit, and
mm.
it's a little shorter, a little stubbier. But I can't tell you how many of these things I destroyed as a kid, man. Flying in those missions and just blowing the hell out of these things. Just on the ground, moving around. Man, as much as I love Squadrons, it was all in space, but I want to have another, like, just remake Rogue Squadron. Make it a lot more arcadey.
Mhm.
Squadrons is very, very much a sim. I want to see a remake of Rogue Squadron. Have it come out whenever Patty Jenkins movies come out. Drum up a little bit of support, have some synergy between the two projects, and bring these things back into canon because these things are a cool design. My one buddy actually had a 3D printed version of this, and he made his own rules for it, and one of his homebrewed rules for Star Wars Legion, and I was like going against one of those things. It was
That's
like, oh
pretty
my
cool.
god, dude, you actually
That's
found
great.
the idea to 3D print this thing. Like, holy crap. So yeah, I like that one. Runner up for me would be the ADTP, I think it's called, and that's the Macquarie design of the ATST that's seen in
Mm,
Star Wars Rebels Season 1 on Lothal, or like a very, very tall ATST with like a single like mounted blaster. Um, I like that design too. So I guess you could say I'm a fan of the two-legged walkers. What about you, Ben?
Yeah, I mean those are really good choices. Like you said, the ATPT, like that one was such a good one back in the day.
Heh.
But for me, yeah, for me, I would say, and like you said, especially with vehicles, like, we always talk about like legend stories and adapting them into canon and stuff. But vehicles, there's no excuse. Like every cool vehicle should be adapted because it's just a vehicle. It's not a story. Like it's a machine. Like, they should just be putting these things in left and right where they can. Um, but for me, when it comes to the walkers, I would say probably, man, that's a tough one. That it would either it wouldn't be the AT-AT or the AT-AT just because I don't know. I feel like that's too easy or too I don't know. It's just not my thing. But I would say probably the most I'd say favorite one of mine. Man, that is such a tough one. It would either be the clone like AT-AT like the legged walker.
Mm-hmm.
That I would say probably that one. Just because like we've seen it in so many iterations and adaptations, like we saw it in Attack of the Clones, we saw it in like obviously different adaptations of it in Revenge of the Sith and Clone Wars and things like that, and of course over the years, whether it be in like even the Tartakovsky Clone Wars, like we've seen these different these different versions of the clone AT-AT, and I've always found those to be really really cool. And then like on like I guess the bad side of those clone AT-ATs, like I feel like for me one of the most iconic shots of them is when the Hailfire droid like shoots all of its missiles and they like lock in and like blow it away in Attack of the Clones. Like it's just to me that's such like an iconic shot, and I don't know, it's just a really cool vehicle.
All right.
Yeah, I really do dig everything about the ATT. Is that what it is?
Oh, yep. Yep, ATT.
Oh my gosh,
That's
it
what
gets
it is.
so confusing with these different letters, man. ATPT,
Yep.
AB, I don't know. But I like how it's a different vehicle. Instead of, you don't got 2 legs, you don't got 4 legs, you got 6 legs, and you're a little lower to the ground. You have a
So much fun in the classic
cannon.
Battlefront.
Yeah.
Yes. And in Star Wars Rebels Season 2, getting to see like our childhood toys come together with an ATT versus an AT-AT in a freaking sandstorm with the Jedi using the Force to like steer each other, like that was incredible. Oh man, that was so cool.
Dope. I know for me, because I don't like this movie, but I like the vehicle from The Last Jedi. I like the Gorilla Walkers.
Oh, the ATM-6.
Yes, the Mega Caliber 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, all-terrain Mega Caliber 6. I guess that'd be ATM or MC6. Yeah.
Those things are cool.
or ATMGs or ATM6 or something like that. Yeah. But no, I like that look. I like the Gorilla Walkers. I mean, I think overall looking at an actual gorilla, they're very powerful in stature.
Yeah.
Even though they're on their hind legs using their arms as walking, tools, those things are pretty badass. And seeing how they adapted that, into a vehicle that's mechanical, it still feels very threatening. And I love how like it looked and how it felt. It felt and it moves fluidly. So I love that particular vehicle. That's become probably my favorite walker thus far.
Yeah, and they have different functions too. Like the back of them, I don't think we've seen them used, but they had like a bunch of these like deployable mines that were on the back that could like if I had the cross section book where it explains like they fall off the back and they could just like lay like these like, big ass explosives, and it was cool because we get to see regular AT-ATs next to them and they are dwarfed by this effing thing and it's huge, and the First Order was able to take what the Empire used with the AT-ATs and bump it up a notch because there's no way a tow cable can take out ATM-6 because the way their legs are designed, it's impossible for that to be effective the way that their like legs move and all. So it's pretty cool where we see like an evolution of a design. That's where Star Wars is really great with the concept art, going from the prequel era to the original trilogy era to the sequel era and seeing how things evolve over time based off of history and how history really plays a factor in how the designs change over time.
Agreed.
All right, I guess we'll just go for like a regular starfighter now. Good old starfighter. Let me think, because I did not actually write a list. I'm just doing this off the top right now, and there's so many ships to choose from. This is the hardest category right now probably to think about. If you want to go first to give me more time to think, then go by all means.
Yeah, I'll go. I would say, all right, so like starfighter, we'll just kind of like classify this as more like say smaller-ish ships, like not like the big ships, like
not a freighter. We'll have our own category for freighters like the Millennium Falcon and stuff like that.
Yeah. I would say so. Like more of these like smaller type of, I guess you would say planetary ships almost. For me would have to be the clone gunship. Like I feel like that is like the perfect
Ooh.
ship. Like it's such a great ship. Like because of course like the iconic shots with it from Attack of the Clones. Like everybody like seen that in theaters. Like was one of the coolest shots in my opinion from that movie. And it's just one of the most interesting ships, just because you can carry your troops there. You can have multiple troops like in the pilots and in the gunner seats, and then
Yep.
carrying Jedi
I.
and like
Mhm.
a lot of that stuff like for me with the clone gunships like goes back to like playing those old Battlefront games, like because like when you're playing 4 player, you could load up 4 people into the gunship and
Oh,
go,
really?
or like yeah, on the old like say even Star Wars Battlefront 1, you could do 4 player, and you could have one person as the pilot. You just press Y or triangle on PlayStation. Like the first person presses Y to go into the pilot seat. Second person is the second gunner, third gunner, and then the fourth person is literally just a clone trooper who's standing up, like holding on inside the passenger thing. It's like for me, like the clone gunship has a special connection because of that. Like playing those old games with my buddies, and then even to like Republic Commando, because like in that game, you
Okay.
travel around a lot in that game with the
Oh.
clone gunships, and then of course, like to me, one of the most or like the best used clone gunship for me was like from the Tartakovsky Clone Wars series when they're going in with that like painted up clone gunship to like
Oh
shoot
yeah.
at General Grievous. That whole sequence is so good, and yes, like that's why I would say the clone gunship is like my favorite, like small-ish type of ship, I would say.
All right. All right. Talking about Starfighter, I'll go now. I got an idea. I put the bad guys on this one. TIE Defender.
Yeah,
Now,
it's
TIE
pretty
Ooh,
cool.
that's a good
Defender,
one.
really cool design because they are the answer to the X-Wing on the Empire side. I think they were in the Thrawn trilogy, right? Were they in the Thrawn
Yes.
Yep.
trilogy?
Well, no, they
Like,
brought him in the
yeah, and
Rebel
can I'm just
show.
trying to think of like legends. Were they first? Were they in the original Thrawn trilogy? Maybe,
Yeah,
maybe not.
I I believe they were, because I think that's why they. I mean, that's why they pulled them into the Rebel show, was
Yeah,
because of was because of
yeah,
that.
yeah. Because what the backstory is in that show is that we have TIE defenders that are made by Thrawn, and then it ends up that the Death Star project from Tarkin would be more valuable. But in retrospect, the Empire would have still been in command if they would have just made fleets of these things because they had shields, which TIE fighters never had, plus they had hyperdrives. So those two additional features would make them superior to like any X-wing or anything that like the
Mhm.
rebels could make fighter wise. So they're cool. I just like love the design of like the 3 wings. Like it just looks very aggressive, with the pointed rings and just the backstory of it all, hovering around Thrawn, hovering around like that post Return of the Jedi stuff when it first came out. Like that stuff really entices me, and it just shows like the ingenuity and the inventiveness of the Empire to just keep making implementations from the regular TIE to the TIE bomber to the TIE interceptor now to the TIE defender, and we have so many other iterations: the TIE bruiser, the TIE striker in Rogue One that's only planetary. There's and then the First Order has their whole line of TIE fighters, but I think out of all of them, the TIE defender is still reigning supreme. It's pretty cool because like currently in the canon, you'll see TIE defenders pop up every now and again. Like for instance, there was a I forget the name, but Dark Squad. Yeah, I think it was called Dark Squadron that appeared with Byler Valence in between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. There's a thing there. In the post Return of the Jedi story, Shadow of the Sith, there is a um, acolyte of the Beyond who somehow got her hands on a TIE defender and is going up against Luke with it. So that was a really cool moment in that book. So like it's neat. Yes, they're discontinued, but the people will still find ways of tracking them down and using them, and they are a force to be reckoned with. What about you, Milton? Have you thought of any starfighters?
Yeah, I had a couple, but the one that I
Okay.
can think of I'm just gonna give you the one because that's one I really kind of fell in love with recently over the last couple of years. Again, from a movie I don't like, the TIE silencer, Kylo's ship.
Oh,
Yeah.
I like how it looks. I like the way he flies it. You know, if I had to pick between two ships, it'd be between him or Anakin's Jedi fighter
mm-hmm.
because how they fly their ships mainly and how they look when they fly aggressively. But with the TIE silencer, just how he does that spin and
Yeah.
how he moves and twirls and shoots, I'm like, oh, I can see myself having one of those bad boys.
Yeah, and it was one of those dawning moments on me. It was like, this is literally the grandson of Anakin right here,
Hmm.
and the son of Solo. Like these two great pilots, the bloodline of pilots in his blood is so strong. You see it there showcased. I wish we could see more
Right.
of Kylo Ren flying his ships around. Um,
Well, we
uh,
get that in the Rise of Skywalker because he's flying through that abyss to
oh
go to
yeah,
the
and then
exit goal.
that's the TIE Whisperer. I always get those
Yeah,
confused. You have the TIE Silencer and the TIE Whisperer. I think the Silencer is
right.
from Last Jedi, Whispers from, yeah. So yeah, lots of cool TIE implementation. The First Order knows how to make a good fighter. That's for sure. They have the TIE daggers that we see
Mhm.
briefly in Rise of Skywalker as well. But yeah, that's a good thing. That's a good way you put it, Milton. It's like, yeah, it's cool to see the design just as a flat image. But what adds a lot of credence and credibility to it
Mhm.
is to see it in action and
Yep.
to see how the pilot is able to maneuver the ship. And when you see it doing like those corkscrews, firing that missile, it's like, holy crap, that thing looks
It's
awesome.
crazy. Yeah. Like one of my favorite like scenes in Revenge of the Sith is in the beginning whenever Anakin's in his starship, you know, with Obi-Wan and they're about to head to Grievous's ship